Texas. It's this weekend where a much larger swath of the U.S. will be getting in on this, what's going to be a mess. You could call it a rinse and repeat because for the past 2 weekends, now this one being the third, we have had a significant risk for storms. We have a level 3 for Sunday, but let's not ignore either side of Sunday, Saturday and Monday. Saturday, tomorrow, it's going to be late in the evening, the forecast period, that we look for some of these storms to bubble up. A lot of them are threatening large hail, very large hail. Then on Sunday, we've got our main event, you could call it that. That's going to bleed into Monday as this cold front's going to advance east off the eastern seaboard. So we start with where it all begins, and that's going to be on Saturday. Some energy in the west is going to be moving into the plains, and as a response, we're going to have a surface low develop. And this surface low, Marissa, is what's going to, one, act as the trigger for some of this rising air. We're going to get a deeper area of low pressure. As it develops, fronts will form, and these fronts would sort of act as the trigger if we have enough support in the upper levels, mid-levels of the atmosphere. It's kind of a big question, if we will.
And it seems like we will have some of the ingredients, but do we have everything we need to trigger it? Because it's kind of like pouring everything in the bowl, but do you have the mixer to come in and put it all together? More of that certainly on Sunday. For tomorrow, the level 2 threat, that is somewhat isolated in terms of coverage. It's a relatively small area of real estate that does include Wichita, Kansas, Kansas City, and into portions of Missouri, Springfield, Missouri. Not lost on us that these are areas that have had a rough go of it every weekend for the month of March, right? To have severe weather.
We had 20 tornadoes or near 20 in Missouri, and in Illinois, same thing. We've had prolific hail, and in Oklahoma, if it hasn't been hail, well, it's been dust. Significant fires too.
So that's, I mean, it looks like the main threat for Sunday, if we do, or sorry, Saturday, if we do get these storms to really pop and break through that little cap in the atmosphere, and they can grow, we maybe get some large, very large hail that could go from an egg size to maybe baseball size. And that's what we're more concerned about, though. Everything, of course, on the table in terms of hazards. Sunday, things get a lot more interesting.
They get dicey.
They get,
And when we look at outlooks from the SPC, there's a big zone we have here. Warm front's going to be to the north. This is going to be a cold front driven event. So the line of storms that we see, that's most likely what's going to produce all modes of severe weather, large hail, damaging winds, and even tornadoes. And it does look like, for the most part, these storms will hold off from forming until the afternoon. I mean, we'll have to watch. Obviously, we'll have our cluster of storms down in the Gulf Coast, but as we work into Sunday during the day, not a ton. But then we might see some try to bubble up in Alabama, Mississippi, but here's that line. And I mean, for our Fox model, and
really pushing it.
Timing might be adjusted a bit as we get closer to it, but that's the line that's going to produce the severe weather. And as it marches off to the east, it could carry all modes, and it will continue into Monday. And actually, where that cold front is going to depend on where we see the storms. If that cold front's a little slower, then there's a chance that we'll see redevelopment as some of the storms outrun it. I mean, it's going to be, it's a fluid atmosphere. So I mean, boundaries are going to be at play. So we'll be watching that. And perhaps this is why I really do want to understand the thinking over at the SPC, just these large risk zones that we have.
Very large.
A lot of people, and this is day 4, but even with day 3, we still see a bunch because the threat's just going to be there. So
you're right. I think this really, the expansion from Monday further to the west speaks to this sluggishness, because, and maybe even that overnight threat into Monday that we could have. So we'll continue to watch it. Let's just focus on Saturday, and then we'll dive deeper into Sunday as we get closer to, and Monday we'll, of course, fine tune for you.